Hi, this is Josh with CalNeva Realty, and today I wanted to share with you my Geeky market report for December 2022. This one's going to be a little bit different than before. I'm going to go a little bit more into the state of the market, look at the market conditions over the last year, and kind of give you an opinion on where I see things going for the near future. So over the last year, home prices have declined and are starting to level out. When we look at Reno in December, the median house price was $534,000. This was a drop of 5.9% from November, as well as 6.4% from last December. When we look at the price, it started out around 570 last December, and then we got all the way up to the 630 range, 635 range. And then after July, prices started to just kind of come down and they're starting to level out in that 540 to 560 range over the last few months. Sparks also had a decline in prices. They came down to 495,000 in December. That's a drop of 2.9% from November, as well as a drop of 3.7% from last December. When we look at the prices in Sparks, they also peaked out right around May at 570, but over the last few months have been leveling out in the 495 to 515-ish area right there. So why have prices changed so much? Well, the answer is interest rates. They've been rising over the last year. And what we have seen is interest rates started around 3.12 in December of 2021. But by the time the spring market came along, they were already in the fives. And then all the way into October, they got all the way up to 7. After October, they did start coming down. And we started seeing interest rates in the 6.5, 6.4. And now we actually are seeing interest rates in January in the low 6s, high 5s. Depending on the different lenders. All that to say, these rises in interest rates increase someone's monthly payment, making it harder to buy homes at these higher prices. So what that has done is that has really slowed down the buying activity. And this is what I want to show what I mean by that. When we look at this blue line, and I went all the way back to January 2020, we're looking at all the new listings that hit the market every month for the last couple years. And we have natural peaks and valleys during the spring and summer months. We peak and then it goes down around October. It starts going down to a valley in December, and then it starts rising again. And that's a natural cycle of our market. But as you can see in our peaks, in our peak season, we're between 700 to 800 listings every month in those time periods. But when we look at 2022, we had a very sharp peak that went from the 7 to 8 to 900 listings a month and kind of went down sharply as well. When we look at that in contrast to this line, the yellow line, which is how many homes actually go into contract every month, we see that during the peak seasons, we'd get 600 to 800, 600 to 700 homes about every month going into contract. But during our peak season this year, we only saw 500 to 600 homes. And then as we went into the winter months, we went all the way down to the 400 to 300 range. When we look at these lines in parallel, you'll see over the last couple of years, homes, as almost as soon as they got on the market, were coming off the market. But since interest rates have gone up, it's really slowed down that activity, and we're seeing more homes that went on the market and less homes selling, which means over time those homes have accumulated and we are having more inventory on the market. And what that's done is that's left more properties available for purchase. And what I mean by that is this: when we go all the way back to January 2020, we see that active listings were in the almost 1,200 in the beginning of the spring and summer. But as the pandemic came in and as interest rates dropped, And, a lot of people just started buying and there was not much available. And we just started seeing what was available drop to these low levels of the 300s, 200s, 300s, 400s. Well, as interest rates began to rise and those listings began to accumulate on the market, we got all the way up to about 1,600 homes. And in December of 2022, we were at 989 homes available on our market, which was about 3 times as much as we were last December, where we were at 340. When we look at the number of homes sold, we see the same type of pattern. The number of homes sold was in the 700s and 600s during the during 2020. Same here in 2021. But then as we get to our peak areas, we're looking at homes and the numbers being in the 500s and all the way down the 400s. And in December, there was only 395 homes that sold during that time. And when we look at that year over year, it is a pretty big difference in how many homes actually sold in 2022 versus the 3 previous years. When we look at the other 3 years, we look at 2021, 2020, and 2019. Each year was at least 7,500 homes. 2020 was at 7,800, 2021, 7,600. But 2022, overall only sold 6,095. This was a 20% decrease in volume, which again left a lot of homes available on the market ready for purchase that buyers just did not buy. So what this translates into is what we call month supply of inventory. When we talk about month supply of inventory, what we're doing is this. Let's say there is 900 homes at the end of December that are available for purchase, but 300 homes sold during December. That means if no more homes are added to the market, there's enough there to satisfy buyer demand as long as it stays at that level. So we would say that there's 3 months of inventory. With that being said, we look at inventory however many months, and we try and determine if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or a balanced market. And what we look at is if it's less than 4 months of inventory, usually that's considered a seller's market. And that's where home prices will appreciate year over year. If there's 5 to 6 months of inventory, we look at it and we say that home prices will only appreciate with inflation. And that's where you have a lot of, buyers and sellers have to negotiate with each other to get the home sold and to get a successful close. If we see more than 6 months of inventory, that's where home prices start to depreciate year over year, and it becomes more of a buyer's market. Right now, even though homes have been accumulating on the market, we're still at only 2.5 months supply of inventory, which is still considered a seller's market. Just to kind of show you historically what we're looking at, if we go all the way back again to January 2020, we were only at 1.7 months of inventory. When interest rates dropped and everybody was buying everything, we were under a month of inventory for many months in a row, from August 2020 all the way through September of 2021. So over a year. Then it went up just to 1 month and then it just came right back down. But as the interest rates rose and more homes stayed on the market, we did start seeing the month supply of inventory move up all the way up in October to that 3.5 mark, where it's getting a lot closer to that balanced market. Right now, we're at 2.5 months supply of inventory, and that is pretty normal because there's a lot of people who take their homes off during the wintertime as well as a lot less buyers. So the ratios kind of turn out the same in that month, but we are seeing more inventory and we have seen that number increase. Here's another thing to look at when we talk about, buyer activity slowing down. When interest rates were at their lowest, we're seeing, and inventory was at its lowest, we see that homes went into contract within 8 days on average, 6 days on average, all the way down to 5 days on average. That's how quick a home was going into contract. But as more homes accumulated, buyers started sitting back a little bit, seeing if there were going to be price drops, seeing if there were going to be any other activity on the homes. And as of December 2022, the median days to contract was 53 days. That's almost 2 months. And when we look at that, we're starting to see that the buyer activity is showing that it's not a mad rush to buy a home. They're sitting, they're waiting, they're seeing if they can get a good deal. They're seeing if the seller is willing to negotiate or if they're going to drop their price, and they're just waiting just a little bit longer. There's not as much urgency when it comes to buying. So, what does this mean for sellers? Well, what it means for sellers is basically this: the time of sticking a sign in the yard and getting your home sold over a weekend is pretty much gone. You need to make sure that when you're looking at selling your home, you need to realize that you're competing with a bunch of other homes on the market, which means that your price needs to reflect the condition of your home. And so you need to have the best home for the best price for the buyers to be interested. So if your home needs work and you're not willing to do that type of work, what you might end up doing is you might come in at a lower price to reflect that it needs that type of work. If you want to get the best price in your neighborhood, you want to make sure that your home is in the best condition and looks the best for buyers. And what does this mean for buyers? Well, what it means for buyers is you have a lot more choices. Before, when a home would go on the market and you had to just put any offer you could, you were competing with a bunch of other buyers. That's not the case now. There's a lot more homes on the market, and a lot of sellers are willing to negotiate at this point. If you are looking at homes out there and you're thinking, oh, I don't know, maybe it's too much, whatever, you probably have a chance to talk the seller into lowering their price, or maybe paying for some of your closing costs, or buying down your interest rate. We're seeing a lot of that happen in our market right now. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. And if you have any questions on any of this, feel free to give me a call, or you can give me a text. Here's my contact information. And again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And thanks again for watching. Thanks.